Hello my dear students and welcome to your favorite educational YouTube channel English Valley Ma'am. So आज हमारी OTT series by day 54 Know how to get the perfect score का episode 33 है and आज के episode में we are again going to be reading a chapter from your main reader and what is the name of the chapter? Madam Rides the Bus. और ये chapter हम किसके साथ revise करेंगे? With your favorite English वाली मैम जिनको आप YouTube पे अगर आप अपने किसी फ्रेंड को रेफर करना चाहते हो, you can of course share our videos also, but otherwise you can ask them to search for English वाली मैम with the name Educator Prerna, Prerna, as simple as that. Okay, so all those who've been watching our videos, they know that we need to have the textbook handy while we are revising the chapter. And other than that, I want to remind all of you that very soon ma'am is going to come up with some interesting videos. One about examiner's secret, second about your roadmap to the perfect score. Alright, so now let us start with the revision of the chapter. So this chapter, Madam Rides the Bus, revolves around a girl named Valli who had a strong desire about traveling somewhere through a particular means of transport. So let us revise the chapter the way we always do in a flowchart manner and reading text from the book. Okay. So the story begins talking about Valli, who's an 8-year-old girl and she's very curious about things around her. Okay, and what is the complete name of Valli? It is Vallimai, which is shortened as Valli. Okay, so this girl, she has some favorite pastimes, which is basically she would stand on her doorway and she would watch children playing. Alright, and why did she do so? Because there were hardly children of her age, so she would see either the very young children or children who were quite elder to her playing in the street. Another thing that she was really fond of whenever she would stand in her doorway was the bus that passed through her street. Now this bus passed through her street every hour. Okay, so Valli was always very fascinated by that particular bus. All right. So looking at this bus every day, Valli, she develops a strong desire, an ardent desire to ride the bus. So I want all of you to come to page number 118, 118. So we are reading the second passage from this particular page. Day after day, she watched the bus and gradually a tiny wish crept into her head and grew there. She wanted to ride the bus, even if just once. The wish became stronger and stronger until it was an overwhelming desire, a very strong desire. जब आपको किसी चीज की बहुत ज़्यादा इच्छा होती है ना कि मुझे ये करना ही करना है या मुझे ये चाहिए, that is called an overwhelming or an ardent desire about a particular thing. Alright. So Valli would stare wistfully at the people who would get down or get on the bus and their faces would kindle in her longing dreams and hopes. If one of her friends happened to talk about the journey of the bus, she would, so she became so jealous that this friend of mine has, she or he has gone on a ride in the bus, but I haven't. So she would just say, so what is how she would say to that child, proud. So out of jealousy, she would say to that child that you are, being really proud of yourself. There's nothing to brag about it. Alright, so this overwhelming desire, when it started, overpowering her mind, how did Valli manage to take care of this desire? So Valli has an ardent desire to ride the bus and therefore she came up with a perfect plan. So Valli and just merely an 8-year she designed an entire plan through which she could fulfill her desire to ride the bus. Now there were two main aspects of this plan. First was money, because of course she knew to travel in the bus she had to procure money. She had to have that amount of money through which she could travel in the bus to and fro. Then of course she had to decide over a time when she would travel in that bus, because she was planning to sneak out of her house. उसको ये इंश्योर करना था कि घर में इस बात का बिल्कुल नोटिस ना हो कि उसने बस में ट्रैवल किया है. So how did Valli work on this plan? So page number 118, the same page, the second last passage. Over many days and months, Valli listened carefully to conversations of her neighbors and people who regularly used the bus. And she would also ask a few discreet questions here and there. So she would just, casually ask a few questions. ओ अच्छा, हम बस में जाते हैं तो क्या होता है, कैसे होता है, क्या क्या दिखता है बस में, कितना टाइम लगता है. So she would ask these questions. So what was she actually doing in this entire process? She was trying to extract information कि बस में travel करने के लिए, to ride in this particular bus, what all I need to keep in mind. So this way she picked up various small details. क्या क्या small details Valli ने pick up किए? पहला, town was 6 miles from her village and the fare was 30 paisa one way. So total fare कितना होगा? 60 paisa, which is almost nothing at all. She heard one well-dressed man say. But to Valli, who scarcely saw that much money, from 1 month to the next, it seemed a fortune. Seemed a fortune means Valli को लगा कि ये तो बहुत सारा पैसा है. 30 पैसा one way. But for Valli, it was a huge amount of money. On reaching the town, if she stayed in her seat and paid another 30 paisa, she could return home on the same bus. This meant that she could take the 1 o'clock bus, afternoon bus, reach the town at 1:45 and then come back around back by home by 2:45. On and on went her thoughts, and she calculated, recalculated, planned and replanned. So now Valli made a perfect plan कि अच्छा, if I get this much of money, so she knew कि अच्छा money तो clear है जी, 60 paisa is what I need. So कितने बजे की बस में I need to travel, because it's a 45-minute journey one way. So 1 o'clock I take, 1:45. Now if I'm in the same bus, by 2:45 I'm going to be back. Alright, so this was her entire plan. And one day, finally, Valli managed to board the bus. So who all did she meet on the bus? People in the bus. What was her experience like? What was her experience in the entire journey? What all did she see on her, towards the town and then coming back to her home? So let us read that. So on page number 119, it describes how, she stopped the bus and how conductor jokingly called her madam, because when she was trying to get into the bus, the conductor said that you give me your hand and I'll help you. So she said, no, you do not have to help me. So the conductor was a joking, he was very jolly sort, fond of joking fellow. So he said, okay madam, you can do that. And that's the reason the chapter is titled as Madam Rides the Bus, despite the fact that we are only talking about an 8-year-old girl. So it was this. So on page number 119, I'm reading the last paragraph. It says it was the slack time of the day and there were only 6 or 7 passengers in the bus. They were all looking at Valli and laughing with the conductor. Valli was overcome with shyness. Avoiding everyone's eyes, she walked quickly to an empty seat and she sat down. So then the conductor again asked, may we start? Now madam. So she said, Yes, so then the conductor, he blew his whistle twice and the bus moved forward with a roar. So how is the bus described? New bus outside painted a gleaming white with some green stripes along the sides. And then Valli, in front of Valli was the windshield. There was a beautiful clock. Now Valli devoured everything with her eyes. But when she started to look outside, now she found her view cut off by a canvas blind that covered the lower part of her window. So she stood up on the seat and peered over the blind. So because she could not see everything very clearly, she decided to stand up and have a look at the view outside. And then it talks about the palm trees, the grassland, all she saw. And suddenly she was startled by by a voice. Listen, child, said the voice. You shouldn't stand like that. Sit down. Sitting down, she looked to see who had spoken. So it was an elderly man who had honestly been concerned for her, but she was very annoyed with the attention. Then the conductor chinned in and he said, This is our very grown up madam. So he keeps on mocking Valli. Right now, Valli, she got angry and she said, You've not given me my ticket. So the conductor said that, Of course, I do remember then, and I'm going to hand it over to you. The conductor punched a ticket and handed it to her. Okay, so then he said that if you stand on the seat, you may fall and hurt yourself, because if the bus hits a bump, that's why we want you to sit down. So she says, I'm not a child. So Valli, an 8-year-old girl, keeps on, she shuns the fact that she is a child. Then the bus stopped, some new passengers got on and the conductor got busy for a time. Now there was an elderly woman who came and sat by Valli. So she asked, Are you all alone, dear? And then Valli found the woman absolutely repulsive. Okay, so why? Because she had, big holes on her ears, like the lobes of the ears, they were quite big, and then she was chewing a beetle juice that was threatening to spill all over her lips. So Valli did not really like the physical appearance of this lady. And then she says that, yes, I am traveling alone. So, and then she says, why don't you manage your own business? But the old woman went on with her drivel. Is it proper for such a young person to travel alone? Do you know exactly where you're going in town? So, these are the people that Valli is meeting on her journey. So, first her interaction with the conductor, then the man, an elderly man who tells her to sit down because he's genuinely concerned, and then this elderly woman whose physical appearance kind of displeases Valli, but this lady keeps on talking to her. So now we read part 3 of the story on page 122. Her first journey. What careful, painstaking, elaborate plans she had to make for it. She had thriftily saved whatever stray coins came her way, resisting every temptation to buy peppermints, toys, balloons. So this is how she managed to save money for the journey. Then she managed to save it with much difficulty, and Valli always used these hours for, so every day after lunch her mother would nap for about 1 to 4 or so. Valli always used these hours for her excursions, and she stood looking from the doorway of her house, or sometimes even ventured out into the village. So afternoon from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Valli's mother generally took a nap. So Valli even used this time for what? For moving out in the village. Alright. So the bus rolled on now, cutting across a bare landscape, now rushing through a tiny hamlet. Alright. And then somehow it passed on smoothly, leaving all obstacles safely behind. So on page number 123, now I'm reading the last paragraph. Suddenly Valli clapped her hands with glee. A young cow, tail high in the air, was running very fast, right in the middle of the road, right in front of the bus. The bus slowed to a crawl and the driver sounded his horn loudly again and again. But the more he honked, the more frightened the animal became, and the faster it galloped, always right in front of the bus. And somehow this was very funny for Valli. And then finally the cow moved off the road. Alright. So Valli's one-way journey was complete. So on page number 124, can you locate this? So no, Valli said, I am going back on the same bus. Alright, so now Valli is returning home. So she says that I'm going to get back into the same bus. She took another 30 paisa from her pocket and she handed over it to the conductor. Don't you want to have a look at the sights now that you are here? So conductor said that don't you want to visit the town? So she says, no, I don't want to. Alright. And then of course he tries to offer something. Alright. Now, on page number 125, alright, so we are reading part 4. So the conductor asks, won't your mother be looking for you? So she says, no, she won't be looking for me. The bus started and again there was some wonderful sights. Valli wasn't bored in the slightest and greeted everything with the same excitement she'd felt for the first time. So obviously the scenery or the views that she experienced or she saw while going towards the town, the same were on the way back. But Valli was as excited as she was when she had come to the town. But suddenly, she saw a young cow lying dead by the roadside, just where it had been struck by some fast moving vehicle. Isn't that the same cow that ran in front of the bus on our trip to town? She asked the conductor. The conductor nodded and she was overcome with sadness. What had been a lovable, beautiful creature just a little while ago and now suddenly lost its charm and its life and looked so horrible. The bus moved on, but the memory of the dead cow haunted her, damping her enthusiasm. So Valli's enthusiasm, excitement, all came crashing down when she saw the dead cow lying on the side of the road. Alright, so then when she reaches back to her village, so conductor said that you can wherever you feel like coming for another bus ride, you can come. So she laughed and jumped down from the bus. Then away she went, running straight for home. When she entered her house, she found her mother awake and talking to one of Valli's aunts, the one from South Street. This aunt was a real chatterbox, never closing her mouth once she started talking. So then Valli's aunt asked, where have you been? So she spoke very casually and not expecting a reply. So she just smiled and she probably did not have any conversation. So what was the conversation about? Yes, you are right, her mother said. So many things in our midst and in the world outside. How can we possibly know about everything? And even when we know about something, we often can't understand it completely, can we? Oh yes, breathed Valli. What? Asked her mother. What's that you say? Oh, said Valli. I was just agreeing with that you said about things happening without knowledge. So just a chit of girl, she said her aunt, and yet how she pokes her nose into our conversation. Valli smiled to herself. She didn't want them to understand her smile, but then there wasn't much chance of that was there. So why does Valli talk about or agree to this conversation? Because she said, because an 8-year-old girl maybe had some bleak idea about life and death, but this knowledge, merely having the knowledge about it, she could not really understand why the cow was no more. Alright, so and then of course Valli returns home, so I've explained you that. So basically a story about a girl who's very curious, who wants to ride in a bus. She has a simple desire of taking a ride in a bus, but then how this experience of taking a ride in the bus, how it showed a reality of life. Now this reality of life is all also related to one of your chapters in the same textbook, which is Sermon at Banaras. So, like ma'am always keeps on telling you that how the examiner or in your board exam you can have questions relating the two chapters. Okay, so do remember, ऐसा नहीं कि आपने एक chapter पढ़ लिया and you leave it alone. There are very fair chances that in your long answer type question you can get a question wherein the concept or the theme of both the chapter is interrelated or more or less the same, and you can have a combined question related to those chapters. Okay, and that's why I always read text from your book. Okay, so this is about the story, and now we talk about the character in the story. So we know that there is one main character in the story, which is Valli herself. So time to turn the board. So the first main character is of course Valli. Now the very first pages or the first passage, first paragraphs of the story clearly state that she was a curious child. Alright. Second, reading from the text, what else do we come to know about Valli? So, of course, the chapter clearly states that she was a very curious child. She was also very observant. How do we know that she is observant? Because she like it says that she would observe the people who would get onto the bus or who would get onto the bus or get down from the bus. And along with being observant, she was also very careful, or she was very smart regarding to making plans, right? So she was a kind of person who knew how to make a perfect plan. Alright. Anything else that we can think of with regard to Valli? Don't you think she was also very courageous? How do we know that she was courageous? Because despite being just an 8-year-old child, she decided to put her plan into action. That is, riding the bus all alone. Alright, so these are the main characters of Valli. Of course, you can keep on adding more based on the text. Then the second character in the story is of course the conductor. अब बेटा जब कंडक्टर का कभी कैरेक्टर स्केच क्वेश्चन आता है ना, most of you only write that he was very humorous or he was a joking kind of fellow. आप बुक में से कोट कर देते हो, very good, that's very good कि अगर आप NCERT लैंग्वेज भी कोट कर रहे हो, it's good because हमेशा याद रखना बोर्ड एग्जाम में NCERT लैंग्वेज जो है that is very very important. Okay, there's a reason I've used the word very twice. So, but along with that, one character trait of the conductor that most of you miss on is that he was also very caring. How do we know he was caring? First, because he wanted to, see that Valli is safe in all aspects. Second, when the bus reaches the town, he asks that, do you want to go around or don't you want to see the sight? Then he tells Valli that he offers something, that do you want to eat something, do you want to drink something? So all these aspects cover the fact or justify the fact that the conductor was also a very caring fellow. Alright, so that's about this chapter, and we are going to be meeting in the next episode. Till then, do like, share and subscribe to English Valli Ma'am, or with the name Educator Prerna. You can find me on YouTube. Thank you so much. All the best.